Ignorance. Our biological natures makes us learning machines from birth because we begin in life in complete ignorance. By design, this creates some overlooked existential consequences. Without really understanding the dynamics behind these consequences, we still feel them in the background, and this results in blaming ourselves for deficiencies ill-defined. Beginning life in complete ignorance and with virtually no skills or capacity to take care of ourselves, we are required to fill in our ignorance and to learn the skills necessary to manage life, beyond what comes with the package at birth through genetics. In order to learn the basic physical, conceptual, and social abilities, we use trial and error and imitation. When it comes to crafting a self, which we really have no idea inherently how to do, we probably also use trial, error, and imitation, trying out various learned human features until some identity begins to form. Over time, and with much often forgotten effort, a great deal of learning and development indeed unfolds. But what's missing in all of this is that every piece of knowledge, social skill, understanding, and mental ability that we acquire is invented. Many are adopted inventions from our collective human culture, but much is self-invented. For example, clearly language is a shared invention that we learn, depend on, and live within as our morals, values, traditions, and so on. And none of these existed before they were invented by us collectively. Beliefs, opinions, assumptions, perspectives, etc., tend to be self-invented, but are clearly culturally and socially influenced. And so we can see that no belief existed prior to it being thought and adopted. Once again, one of the central inventions that arises in all of this is one's self. Consider that what you identify with and experience as you is something you crafted and designed. But just like all the other learning you did, your attention wasn't on the fact that you were creating yourself, but on the self you were trying to become. So without noticing, you remain ignorant of your role in fashioning yourself. Since from the beginning, your awareness never turned in that direction. The resultant person you now identify with simply became your self-experience, with all of your perceptions and attention looking out from this experience as you attempt to manage life from moment to moment. This is another overlooked dynamic. Even the fundamental consciousness, what we might call who you really are, that exists throughout your self-conception is lost within the amalgam of adopted skills, mental activities, and identifiable characteristics you adopted and came to think of as yourself. The primal awareness of your unfettered and unattached source existence remains hidden from view within your experience until you directly experience who you really are, grasping directly your existence without identity, history, or process. At this point, you might begin to contemplate your essential nature or what you are. But that isn't commonly done because, as has been said, your awareness and efforts are naturally devoted to managing life and not to grasping the source of your self-experience. Although you might think that knowing who and what you are is the end-all to all consciousness, it isn't. It is only the beginning. Many of us are still a ways from such foundation breakthroughs, but whether we have made them or not, our experience remains stuck in what we could call the self-mind. Although we started life in complete ignorance, we've learned a great deal, and so naturally assume that all the learning we've done has solved our condition of ignorance. Yet when we look more closely, we can see that it hasn't. This second point may seem to be a false statement on its face, because we also assume that our learning is all that can be done. And since we've seemed to know so much, how can it be called ignorance? Yet when asked, what is life? What is death? How do we come to exist? Or what is the absolute nature of existence and so on, we find no direct, genuine, conscious experience that answers any of these questions. We only find speculation and belief, and these do not rise to the level of direct personal consciousness. So it turns out that we are just as ignorant as we were at birth about the foundation realities of self and life, and that everything known has been learned and is not an inherent or direct consciousness of these essential matters. Because of this ignorance, and the fact that virtually our whole experience of self and world is invented and adopted, we have a nagging background sense that there is something wrong with our very person. We try to cover up this sense by inserting beliefs and convictions, by gathering more knowledge, or piling up opinions and assumptions, or perhaps by working to become competent and successful. But none of these actions alters our foundation sense that something in ourselves is incomplete and perhaps broken. They simply bury it. This condition of existential ignorance doesn't just tend to lead us to a sense of ill-defined personal lacking. It also means that in order to fill in the gaps of what's unknown in these areas, we require some other activity to substitute for direct knowledge. This most often is done through adopting beliefs, opinions, convictions, assumptions, and the like, forming what seems to be a solid version of reality. But if you look closely, you'll see that all those activities are concepts. Beyond these faux forms of knowledge, as a community or culture, we are further pressed to create inventions that serve to coordinate our interactive efforts and organize our perspectives, thus creating a great deal of our perceived world. Yet, these inventions are not seen as inventions. And we should note that no invention is a direct consciousness. Such consciousness is about grasping what's existentially and inherent, not what's invented. In this pursuit, it's essential that we know the difference.